Well, time flies so quickly. We're on our second to last conversation at Next Summit. So keep your energy up. And if you've been with us all day today, then you know my name and we've gotten to know each other a little bit. If you're just tuning in, I'm Micheline, and I'm super excited to be joined by Puno. Puno is the founder of I Love Creatives, podcaster, and former host of Girl Boss Radio, and multi-hyphenate creative. We're so lucky to have you with us today, Puno.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is like the first thing that I'm doing since I had a baby. So this is like me entering back into the world.
Oh, this is monumental. Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Clap it up for Puno.
She hot.
We love it. We're so lucky to have you, and you're like comeback, like since like having a child. So that is amazing. We're so excited. So Puno, for the people who aren't familiar, I Love Creatives, fill them in a little bit on I Love Creatives.
Yeah. So I Love Creatives. It started off as a Craigslist for creative people kind of thing. We do ads for jobs, events, creative services. There's also a lot of random stuff on there, but from there, we ended up getting into online education and doing a lot more digital creative skills. But to be honest, it's like a hodgepodge of just whatever ideas kind of come to our head, which is a good and a bad thing. But there's just a lot of fun stuff on there. We do products. We have a podcast on there too that we should be working on again at some point. I'm all like, but yeah, our main thing, the main reason why people know about us is we have online courses, and they're a lot of fun, and we try to make them very actionable. Like, I'm a self-taught creative person, and I also understand how long that took. And I also understand that there are a lot of people that want to get into the creative world, whether maybe they're an employee or they're doing something on the side or whatever. But sometimes you just need someone to show you. And if you can do it in a good way and have a good time, then yeah, that's how we do it. But
we're all for the good time and good vibes. I love it. Yeah. So this is a question for you, just kind of like kickstarting the conversation. So how do you stay fresh, current, and on the pulse about the future at all times, being a creative?
I think this is why I have a mic in front of my face. I ask so many questions. Like, I am not shy about it. And I don't know where that came from. Need to unpack that. But I ask a lot of questions, and I feel like I get the pulse from other people. Yeah. And I wasn't always like that. I mean, I had a full-time job. No, I was like that at the full-time job too. I think it's just now when you're in the freelance world, you just get your proximity is like so much wider, right? So, yeah, I think that anybody I talk to, I ask them questions about who they are, what they're into. And it always goes beyond like, what's the weather like? It's just like, okay, let's talk about the weather, but then let's talk about something else. Let's talk about this. And eventually I get my news updates that way.
I think that's really interesting because, when it comes to staying fresh and on top of ideas, and you saying that you're just like humble enough to just ask the questions, it's just like, hey, I'm going to just cast net really wide and just like be open to all the information that comes in my direction rather than closing myself off to new opportunities, new experiences, new conversations that can just like help just broaden everything.
And sometimes what I'll do is in order to go deeper, like my friends and I have this level system where we're like, how deep can you get with somebody, and how kind of quickly can you get there? Not like to, not to like therapize anything, but like I just, sometimes I'll have to talk about things that are not necessarily things you would talk about with a stranger. Like I would talk about breastfeeding. I would talk about my nipples to someone, like I'm like not afraid to talk about whatever. And I think that opens up the space to talk about anything really quickly with a stranger. And it's kind of disarming too, I think, which is nice. And then the other thing also, and I did this a lot when I was in middle school, high school.
Mhm.
I moved to a new school, and so I needed to make friends right away. And I remember like being lunch table agnostic. Like there's lunch table cliques, and I would make it a point to like go to each lunch table and
You
be
were
like,
the
hey,
floater.
yeah, you know, exactly. And I think that that really, really helps because now, you know, you can talk to a bunch of diverse, different people and talk about all sorts of stuff.
And I guess like on that note, it's kind of similar. And obviously creating can get so exhausting. So how do you keep generating ideas once you feel like you've explored everything? It's like, all right, I've talked about, you know, everything from the core of the earth to the moon. What else do I talk about now?
This is something that I always forget. Um, it's so crazy. I feel like I just forgot this, and now talking to you about it is reminding me again. But we have conversation, like we're having this conversation about managing creative burnout. I've had this conversation before,
Yeah.
but I'm having it with you now, and it's a
Mhm.
totally different flavor. It's totally there's different dynamics. I'm having new revelations about it, or I'm revisiting another one. The
Yeah.
way that the tone of our voice is different. It's just like at the end of the day, even if you're talking about the same thing, even if you're exploring the same content or the same subject again, you are a different person already today, but you're also a unique person.
Yeah.
You're your own person. So I would sometimes get caught up and I'd get bored of my work, or I would get bored or feel like it's not unique enough, but I completely forget that I am a freaking unique person. Like
Mm.
not just me, but like anybody is, and I think that we forget how unique we are. And I think that's where it's like the generating ideas doesn't have to be that exhausting if you aren't, if you just like remember that your flavor is a huge component of it. So you don't have to be all big ideas all the time. You don't have to be like, this has to be the most unique fucking thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Mm.
Otherwise, I won't do it.
Right. And I think that's such an interesting point that you bring up too, like getting bored with yourself. So how do you not get bored with yourself and get bored with your work? Because I realize that's something that can really drain people over time or even change their relationship with their creative work if they get super bored with themselves over time.
Yeah. And sometimes that's legit. Like sometimes when you're bored with yourself, it might be, and I'm just talking about myself when I was bored with myself, it's because I was kind of doing the same thing and I was just kind of, going with emotions. I wasn't like reinventing the wheel. I wasn't like changing things a little bit differently. And I use that boredom as a signal. But if you use that boredom and then get really like you can either brainstorm or you can spiral. And
Mhm.
if you brainstorm, then you're going to come up with an actionable plan, next steps, ideas for the new thing that you need to do. If you spiral, you're just going to say, I suck, I'm not unique, I'm not blah, blah, blah. And you just start spiraling, and that's not helpful at all. So it's really interesting because in our courses, that thing happens so often with
I can
students.
imagine.
And I don't think it's just because our course is like that. I think it's just because like, like our course really fucks with you, but I'm sorry. But like, I think it's natural for people to kind of start spiraling and self-sabotaging themselves a little bit.
Mhm.
It's so easy to do. And I just hear it a lot. I hear it a lot at 2 points. Right before someone does anything at all.
Yeah.
That's when it usually happens. And then the second time is when they're doing something a lot and they feel bored of themselves. But yeah, I mean, I think that just coming up with either a deadlines help so much. It's like one of those things that will just force you to get out of your head and like get something done, whether you like it or not. We in one of our courses, we have a 6-week deadline.
Mm,
And we never used to do that before because our courses used to be self-paced. But the problem was that people were spiraling. And I had so many office hours where I just spent a lot of time like giving people like that energy boost to start up again. But without that deadline, there was no like real reason to just push past it. Because sometimes that's all you really need to do is just push past it and just get some work done so
yeah.
that you can then look back and revise. But I would say if you're feeling bored, recognize that boredom, be like, cool, it's boring. All right, that's fine. Think about like, what are the great things that you can do, the not great things you can do, whatever, just some next steps. And then like truthfully put a deadline to it, and don't do it in like something that's like 3 months from now. If you need it to be done in like a week from now, like maybe that needs to be a shorter timeline. But yeah, those two things I feel like are that's kind of it. Like
And I wish I could just have like a magical screen pop up like right next to me with like some of the major key alerts I'm hearing from you so the audience can take notes. But some things that I'm hearing you say is, number one, be comfortable with yourself, who you are, the work that you present to the world. You can either choose to spiral up or spiral down, and spiraling up being the brainstorming piece, and also just what you touched on is like creative resilience. At the end of the day, it's kind of like just getting it done.
yeah.
Even when it's not, even if you're bored, even if you're frustrated, and being comfortable with the final product, even if it's not the most creative, innovative thing that you feel that you've ever created.
Right. And really that's you practicing giving yourself really good feedback. Like in art, everybody talks about art school or anywhere, any mentor that you've ever worked with or a boss, you can get good feedback from them or you can get bad feedback from them. And like the bad feedback is negative. It's not helpful. There's no next steps. There's no whatever, but the good feedback it's critical. It's like, yeah, this could be better. But how about you do this and this, or how about you look at it this way? So, practice giving yourself really good feedback.
And I think that's huge too. I'm going to hold on that for a second, because that could be a whole TED talk in itself, giving yourself good feedback, because you could just become, I don't know, someone that just beats yourself up, your own biggest bully. And that doesn't help get anything done.
No. And it is so common. It's just so common. It's like, I feel like 9 out of 10 people that take our courses go through it at some point, no matter if they're a beginner or if they're like an expert. It's just people are hard on themselves and they want to challenge themselves, which is great. But it just kind of, sometimes it gets off the right path.
Yeah. So there's obviously like the creative burnout in itself, but then there's also like the life burnout that can happen at the same time with creative burnout. So life happens, family issues emerge, personal issues emerge. How do you juggle the turbulence of life with production demands and creative demands?
Right. I think that there's like there's almost levels in my head. There's always a level. So if it's something that really needs to get figured out, you need to figure that out. Like if it's something where you're in a relationship that isn't working and it is messing with you, it is like not working for you, you need to like deal with that, because it's gonna keep bleeding into everything else, not just your creative life, your health, your sleep, your everything. So I think it's just being really honest about what is bothering you and what is consuming your brain space or your heart or whatever, and give it that moment to like deal with it and work through it. Now there's other things that are completely out of your control. When we were going through COVID, I mean we still are, but like the the heat of it.
Right.
A lot of people were really just feeling down and feeling, like exhausted from life. And I I I don't know. I mean, I think that there became like two cohorts in a way. There was the cohort that was like, well, this is what it is. Um, I'm just going to move forward and do something else with my time. And then there's the other ones that needed a break and just needed a break and couldn't get back into the work. I don't know what's right for you. I don't think that there's like a great answer for that. But like for
Yeah.
myself, I'm definitely the person that I will take a break, but it won't be too long. It'll probably be, you know, like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But at some point, like I have to do something or I will get into my head too much. And I know that for myself personally, momentum is kind of everything.
Right.
And if I lose my momentum, it's just so hard to pick it back up. So I need to do like small things, very small things. They don't have to be big things. And take breaks, take small breaks whenever I need to take small breaks.
And piggybacking to something that you had said was handle your personal life. And I never quite thought of it in the way that you said it, like, hey, if someone's in a bad relationship and that relationship is taking up so much headspace, now that headspace that they would use for their creativity, now they don't have that space that they could contain because this area that is not contained is spilling over into all areas. I really just wanted to say I appreciated that thought because I never thought about it in that particular way. And I'm like, oh, wait, like, yeah, if I'm thinking about something or someone 10 hours in a day, 5 hours, and not putting caps on that, or taking care of myself, then of course it's going to drain creative energy. And something, and I guess like this is what you mentioned about breaks is a great segue. How long do you take a break? And you just mentioned that. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, depending on what circumstance has led them to take that break. For you, and I definitely appreciate that you take like 1 to 2 weeks and just breathe. And I guess how long is too long before you lose your momentum, but then also your audience gets really frustrated or moves on to the next thing. And I think that's something I've seen a lot of creatives and creators like go downhill because let's say they took a 1-year hiatus, a 6-month hiatus on an Eat, Pray, Love journey, and then they come back and their audience is like, well, I've moved on to something different.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Mhm.
Honestly, I mean, I get it. Like if that is your bread and butter, like that's also really hard to step back from. But I assume that if you needed to take a year break, there is a big reason why you needed to do that. And if you can build it once, you can build it again.
Mm.
But I think that like for myself, in terms of how long that I want to break for, and I'm actually going through this right now because I before I when I was pregnant, before I delivered, I thought that 6 to 8 weeks would be great. And then I could just slowly get into work again, maybe like 1 day a week or 4 hours a week. I don't know, something like that. Um, and now that I'm in it, now that I know what kind of baby I have, like, that was actually a big part of the equation that you can't know until you actually have her or him. And now that I know that, it's interesting because I'm almost reprioritizing what like how much time do I want to actually work again or how much time do I want
Mm.
to do and I think that that's okay. Like I'm not I'm not like I'm a content creator. I like to make content, but I'm not definitely like somebody who um has to have it. Like it's such a plus. It's so great. It's such a community. It's so fun. But I also, for myself personally, don't rely on it. And I think for me, that's probably why I'm okay with being like, it's not a big deal if you if you don't
Yeah.
like work on it. But with all that being said, I think that community social content, at least in terms of that part of the question that you're talking about, the reason why I always come back is because for me, creativity, I've just realized this, is so much about starting a conversation or having a conversation with uh, the internet, with community, with other people that you've never met before.
Mhm.
And I first realized that when I had fibroids and I had a fibroid surgery. And I just talked about it on my Instagram account. And um I did it on purpose because when I was looking for information on it, I couldn't find any information. The only information I found was on YouTube or on Instagram.
Mhm.
And so it was so important for me to have that conversation, and like do and even if it's not serious, I feel like anything creative that I do eventually becomes some kind of conversation, some kind of thing we can talk about, we can relate to each other about. So I think I'm always going to have something to talk about. I'm always going to have something that I want to, like, you know, be on the same page with someone. So I feel like that's my motivation to come back to it.
Yeah.
Shoot, I feel like I really went on a large
Oh,
tangent
no, no,
there.
no, no, no. It is all good. I think we're taking in all the nuggets.
I was like, where are we?
And that's what happens in the beauty of conversation. Sometimes you have to go to another planet. And this is what creativity is all about.
Case in point.
No. I think you were completely on point. And something you were mentioning too, about prioritization. And I think that's probably like plays a huge role in creative burnout, especially once you, let's say, like you kind of have a breakthrough moment where now you have a surge of requests, you have so many people, so many brands that want to work with you. And it's like, oh my goodness, let me take them all. You take them all, you burn out. So how do you balance and prioritize, what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to? And I know that varies from person to person because it's their own value system, that should probably be guiding their choices and what they entertain and what they don't. But also for you, being a new mom as well, that's like a whole new role. So prioritization becomes even more important.
Well, okay. So here's my thought on this. I'm 38 now, and I feel like I'm very good at saying no now. But it's because I got burned out. And I think that we are like, as a society, as a community, as um like we're all saying burnout is such a bad thing, and we're trying to avoid it so much, but in a sense it's unavoidable. And I somewhat embrace it. I don't want it. Like, I don't like, you're always trying to mitigate it and not like, because I've been burnt out to the point where I was like, whoa, I didn't catch it. Like, you want to catch it a little bit, like, before it gets too crazy. But you can't avoid it, because you're all like, if you're a creative person, you're always going to try something new. You've never done it before, and you get excited. And that excitement means you're going to work on it for a really long time, and you're going to not want to do anything else. And that
Yeah.
equals burnout. So I think that, like, it's totally fine to have a little bit of burnout, but it's really just about that self-awareness of, okay, is this an emotional burnout right now? Is this a time burnout right now? Is this, what kind of burnout is this? And more importantly, this is something that I learned that I had to do after I got really burnt out, is I would check in once a day. And my reasoning for this was because before, when I worked at a full-time job, I would only check in on New Year's Eve or whenever my yearly review was. And I was like, that's not giving myself enough chances to just check in with myself. So I would ask myself every morning, I would be like, hey, Puno, how's it going, girl? Are you
How
happy?
you
Like,
doing?
how you doing? But no, how you doing? And, and I would just be real and be like, are you happy? Is there anything that's frustrating with you? What can we do about it today? And I feel like just giving myself 365 opportunities to catch it would allow myself to push it a little bit further and be like, you know what? Yeah, I want to work hard tonight. Or yeah, I want to work hard this weekend. Or maybe it's a good opportunity to be like, oof, I don't know if I want to work with those type of people or da da da. And essentially, I would start building this list of deal breakers that would help guide me on like what I could say no to in the future. But even still, even today, I'm still so freaking curious about certain things that I will say yes, even though I know there could be a hint of burnout, but I'm just so curious if it would be fulfilling and fun. And I always think about whether or not, okay, let's say that I take this project on and it becomes absolute hell. When can I leave? And would I be comfortable with completely walking away?
Hmm.
And that's like, those are the types of questions that you ask after you've been burnt out a couple of times, but you're still like, kind of want that pain again.
It's almost like, and you're actually opening up my eyes to seeing burnout in a new way, because it's almost like this self-awareness project, this
Yes.
long-term self-awareness project of what are my triggers, what motivates me, what drains me. And, I think also I love how you framed, that we don't have to be afraid of burnout. Because for me, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I fear burnout and I'm so hyper vigilant that sometimes I won't jump into something because I'm like, oh God, I'm scared I'm going to burn out. But just
Right.
like realizing and getting comfortable that this is a natural part of life, and that we've almost made burnout almost like striving for perfection. Oh, we're never trying to burn out. And in never trying to burn out, there are opportunities that we can be missing to stretch, grow, do amazing things, because, oh my God, I might melt down.
Yeah. Right. And I think that is like every creative, every business person, you're always living in this state of uncomfortability, like uncomfortability, and you don't know what's going to happen. So, just brainstorm for a quick second. What is the plan B, or what is the worst case scenario? And my friend and I talk about this all the time because we do this exercise whenever we travel, because we're little daredevils. And like, one, as an example, one time we were in South Africa and a Boys to Men concert was playing. It was sold out.
Wow.
It was sold out. It was only $75 per ticket, but it was sold out. And we were like, okay, what if we go to the concert and we try to scalp some tickets? And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? The worst could happen, we don't get the tickets and we go get ice cream. Okay. So we go there. Nobody's scalping tickets. I guess that's not a thing in South Africa. So we're like, okay, what if we sneak through the front door? Worst case scenario, they kick us out. We're two cute girls. We can probably talk our way out of it. Where that's the worst case scenario, that we'll just like talk our way out of it. Like, we literally will do this all the time. And then, I mean, in this particular story, we ended up getting VIP passes to the Boys to Men concert.
Wow. A
Yeah.
whole tutorial. Pass us a tutorial, Puno.
So worst case scenario, you can always get ice cream.
Just give it a go.
Just give it a go.
So second to last question, it's crazy how fast that time like is just zooming. And we were talking about this a little bit before hopping on here. How do you handle your business and your child? Because I'm trying to handle myself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have learned so much about vigilant scheduling. I don't know. I didn't know about this before. But they're like, babies have wake times where they are only awake for a certain amount of time before they get really overstimulated and tired. So
Mhm.
like I have to, in the beginning, you feed them every 3 hours,
Mhm.
24 hours a day. That's like every 3 hours. And then you have to put them down for a nap like every 2 hours or whatever. It's like, it's just nonstop. So like I have this spreadsheet. I love a spreadsheet. And I think that is the key. The step one for me is like, how do you find time in the day? Is like, you literally have to make a spreadsheet and find the time.
Yeah.
But that is it. Like I'm like figuring out based off my baby now is 7 weeks. So she's actually getting into routine. Before you couldn't do anything like that because you just need to like figure her out, and she just needs to, be an earthling. but but yeah, like after this, now it's like hyper scheduling, and it is being so focused. Like there is no dilly dallying. Like I have an hour window, and right after this I have to go back and I need to like go check on her and probably change a diaper.
Right.
And so I think like it's so invigorating. It's weird because like yesterday my husband and I we haven't actually done this before, but we were like, we need to sit down and like plan. We need to plan like what is our year and how are we going to do this.
Mm.
um and it was great because we just kind of made some like goals for the rest of the year, and then we can like work from there. And we really truly only have X amount of time this year. Like
Yeah.
maybe 20 hours a week, maybe. And
Mm.
so it's like, what can we do with 20 hours a week and the rest of this year? And then you just work backwards. And so I feel like if you have a kid, or if you are starting another business, or you have a full-time job and you want to do a side thing, like being kind of like hyper scheduled like that is going to just start the momentum
Yeah.
and get you to a place where you are going to feel like you're getting there and giving you that momentum. And you can always loosen up afterwards, when when you feel good about it. That's what I do. Is I'm like super hyper scheduled in the beginning just because I'm like the kind of person who
You
likes
need
a
that
fitness
discipline.
trainer. Yeah. I just need that schedule. I need that like consistency so that I can get out of my head, and it's just like, it's there. It's a deadline. It's something that I have to do. Which is why I personally like online courses, because I'm just like, okay, I have to be there. I just paid for this.
Yeah.
Or even like a trainer, or a friend, or an accountability buddy. Like one of those things just helps me get into it. And yeah, and then once you have you're like in a groove, then let up and like have fun with it and just enjoy that like loosey goosey time. And then you're going to be like, oh no, I need another schedule again. And you just go back.
I love it. Well, Puno, how do our good, beautiful virtual Zoom audience, keep in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, Puno dos Tres. Yeah, and I love creatives as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Anything you want to spotlight from I Love Creatives anything special going on at I Love Creatives?
Yes. We've just finally launched our graphic design course, and I'm so excited about it because I've always wanted a course that was very actionable for the moment. Like it's the way that we like built it was, we wanted it's almost like an apprenticeship. It's like, if you were going to work for us as a freelancer, these are the actual skills and the actual like things that you need to know. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you need to know Figma, but this is how you use Figma, and this is like how we would typically like create comps and stuff like that. So it's just very actionable, and I'm so stoked about it because I don't know, I feel like it's useful.
Yes. Not just yes times 100.
Like, I think I was like, I think it's useful.
Well, Well, we could probably talk for hours and hours,
I
but
know.
got to wrap. But special thank you to Puno for this amazing conversation. I hope that you all were taking notes and not letting the gems just pass you by. Be sure to follow her and I Love Creatives on Instagram. Stay up to date with work life by texting hashtag next to 323-591-5789. That's our phone number. You can stay in touch with our community.
I
So
love that.
we're friends now. And next, no pun intended, we have a smooth set from the multi-talented, multi-instrumentalist, producer, and viral creator, the Pocket Queen. So thank you all for tuning in. All right. Ciao.